Hey, it's Hafsa Slayman and you're listening to Confessions of a Doctorholic. So I stuffed up. I know, it's like episode 2 and I'm already admitting to this. What a disaster. And you know what makes me so sad? I've done this on YouTube as well. So in my head, I was like, okay, people want good, solid content. So that's what I'm going to start with. You don't need to know my personality. You don't need to know who I am. So I've been getting amazing feedback on my first episode. And amongst that feedback is, oh, Hafsa, you might want to introduce yourself. You're great. Just introduce yourself. So this is what this episode is for. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm Hafsa Slayman. As you know, I'm a medical student. And life hasn't been a straight line. It's been up and down. And I know so many people say that. So when I was younger, I had stage fright. And I mean, it was scary. I was so shy. I couldn't stand in front of a crowd. And to be honest, to be more specific, I could not stand in front of my classmates. I would be brought down to tears. So in grade 8, we had a competition. I don't know, they called it an elocution competition or something weird like that. They gave us a script, we had to memorize it, and it was meant to be like a funny script. Then you go on air, or not on air, you go on the stage, you stand up in front of the mic, and you basically recite your skit. It was kind of like stand-up comedy, but just like a lamer version and a version that's not related to your experiences. Yeah, so I was the fourth and last person to go. And I was on the mic. I don't even remember anything to do with my script, but I remember being on the mic. And then suddenly, in the crowd, 2 girls were laughing, or at least I thought that's what I saw. And I freaked out and I was like, oh my God, they're laughing at me. I was 11 at the time. So I was like, oh Lord, they're laughing at me. What do I do? And I just froze. And I felt like time stopped in that moment. I remember seeing people and especially teachers and stuff in the back going keep going, just keep going. And I don't know why, I feel like maybe my inner self thinks I'm a celebrity. So I feel like in this memory, I imagine some flashes going around, people laughing and stuff, but I don't know, I could be completely wrong. Anyway, it felt like the longest time passed, and then eventually I decided to continue, and I felt so defeated, and I was like, oh my God, I don't want to go through this again. Now, fast forward 2 years later, I was like, okay, this fear is ridiculous. I don't want to stay afraid of the stage. I don't want to be that person that can't speak in public. I just freeze, or I don't even, that's just the stupidest response, isn't it? So I'm freaked out. I freeze. I watched The Ring the other day, and then, I don't know about you, but I tend to imagine things, so I froze. In the middle of the living room. I just froze until my body was just keep moving. Why? So 2 years later, I decided, okay, enough's enough. And I've done it before. I had a fear of swimming, drowning. And I fought that, so I was like, okay, time to face my fears. So I signed up for this competition. It was a public speaking competition. It was against a few other schools in the region or something like that. And I had to talk about an environmental issue, specifically waste production, and you do some research, and then in the end you present some solutions for this problem. It was called, Are You Generating a Lot of Waste? I know, super creative, hey? So I was worried, but my teacher at the time, she was my geography and environmental management teacher. She was like, Hafsa, I believe in you. And that's an amazing feeling, by the way. You know, when someone just goes I believe in you. You might be a potato, but I think you can be a jacket potato. You know, that kind of belief. So I was nervous, and she kept me presenting in front of my classmates. I hated presenting in front of my classmates. I was bullied, and I'll talk more about this on another episode. But I was bullied, so I hated presenting in front of my classmates. And I would always freeze. And she was always like, I don't know why. You're fine. You know what you're talking about. You've got the body language, and you're nice to listen to. But why is it in front of your classmates you freeze? Anyway, stuff that. I just wanted to get over this fear. So it was competition day, and for over a month, I've been practicing. And literally, I mean, practicing daily. I wrote my script. It was about 7 minutes long, and that was the time limit. And basically, you speak at the 7-minute mark, you get the timer, so they hit a bell. And no, I think it was like 6 minutes, 30 seconds. You get the first bell, and then 7 minutes, the second one, which says that you just stop talking. Had a presentation going on in the background, and I did some research. It was just a survey of asking students, like, how often do you recycle? Where do you throw your rubbish? Just things like that. So I was freaking out, and when I freak out, I tend to get diarrhea. I know, TMI, just, it's awful. If I'm being completely honest, it's just awful. My timing was after the lunch break. So I guess that's good because like people are happy, you know, you've got food in your belly, you're ready to listen. But I was so nervous, and I've noticed that as I grew older, like I just always want to start first so that you get over the nerves and you're just done. And like if anyone presents amazingly, you're just like, oh, you know what? I presented YOLO. Doesn't matter. So I was after the lunch break, and during the lunch break, I went on the stage and I just walked around. I just wanted to know, like, what does it feel like? I was so nervous, but I was like, oh, like, this is such a different experience. Then one kid went before me. He was incredible. He had the voice, and he was just so engaging, and I was like, oh, shit. I came in here to win. And to make matters worse, I remember, like, literally on the same day, just before leaving, the principal of the school, she was like to the teacher, and I feel like this was a little bit too late to say it. She was like, hey, are you sure you want Hafsa to present? I mean, honey, it's a little bit too late. I'm literally going to the competition in like 30 minutes. She was like, you know, like Hafsa has a history of like freezing on stage and stuff. And I was there, like, I mean, and I was this kid, I was just like, oh, you know, like, I don't know if I'm going to stop or not. So obviously I didn't speak up. I didn't say anything. I just heard her, and I was like, oh, you know. And I really admire this teacher because she was like, don't worry about it. Ignore everyone. You're good. Tell yourself you're going to win. So it was my turn, and they call out, Hafsa Slayman, are we generating a lot of waste? I rock up on stage, and I've memorized this speech, right? Like, I've memorized it like my name, like the lines on the back of my hand, and I'm not talking about wrinkles, by the way. But basically, I knew this speech, and I had a team with me, so I gave them my speech. I was like, okay, when I hit this, you hit the next slide. And they were amazing. They had the paper right next to them, and they were hitting slide after slide. I just kept talking, and I was looking at the crowd. I was looking at the judges. The crowd was absolutely silent. And in that moment, I was like, why am I afraid? Why am I afraid of a crowd that's so engaged by me being on stage? I looked at the judges, and one of them had an RBF. Like, it was so apparent. It was kind of scary. And he was nodding. Like, he was right there with me. I kept talking. I hit the first bell, and then I suddenly started speeding up because I was like, okay, I don't want to not finish on time. And then there was applause. I had tears in my eyes. Like, it was wild. Like, people were clapping, and it felt amazing. I knew I did well. Then I'm walking on the stage. I'm walking back to where my parents were sitting because I was like, okay, let me chill with my parents. People were just clapping. Like, people were shaking my hands. I felt like Queen Elizabeth in that moment. I mean, I don't know how she actually feels, but that's how I reckon I felt. And they were just like, oh my God, you're amazing. And that's when I got over it. Anyway, I don't really know why I was telling you guys this story, but basically, that's when I fell in love with talking to people, with like stage performance. And that's also when I knew that if I can fight my fears, so can you. So can anyone else. I just felt like I went really corny there, but basically, that's me. If you want to know a little bit more about me, I hate rock melon. It's smelly. I don't know why people like it. I don't get it. People say it's good on a summer day, but I'm just like, no. And one of my goals in life at the moment is to get a bounce when I walk. So for those of you who haven't noticed this, just look around you. There are some people that don't have music in the background and they just tend to bounce. I don't know where they get the energy. I don't know how they do it. And I don't know what beat they follow. Like, do they have a beat in their head that they just like bounce to? And I've analyzed this because one of the guys in my class does it. And I just looked at him. I was like, oh, surely. Maybe he's got like a headpiece or something. He can listen to music and he's just like bopping along to it. But no, that's like his natural walk. I walk like there's like something up my bum, like it's just so weird. And I waddle sometimes too. So that's one of my goals in life. Anyway, I'm going to tell you more about me as you listen to the podcast episode. So welcome to the ride. And I'll see you next time.